Okay, go ahead.
Alright, so my name is Yaham, and the topic of refutation that I'm going to be talking about tonight is budget cuts on art and music programs. And a little introduction is, while the government has severely cut funding to public schools, music and art programs have been severely affected. The government feels that ending the music and art programs just end unnecessary programs, but they don't see how it affects children and teachers. As the money slowly gets cut, the government may also force the schools to cut other programs and lay off teachers. The deficit is taking a hard toll on students' education, which needs to be addressed, because the consequence is that America will have students with underdeveloped minds, and nothing can be done until the main issue is addressed. And the main claim that I'm going to refute tonight is budget cuts on arts and music programs that will have a dramatic effect over keeping the programs available. My first supporting claim that I'm going to be talking about is, though cuts affect programs, it also affects the teacher's family life and every little thing about the teacher's life. So what the government and most schools don't know, or that they're just belligerent to, is that the teachers are buying their own art supplies. And since teachers have to buy their own art supplies with their own money for their art classes, it results in less money for the teachers and their families to buy essential items for them to live. In a CNN news report, Joseph Parkin reports that Christy Prager, who's a teacher of second graders, uses her own money to buy school supplies. But she can't afford it, they said. She bought the construction paper, markers, and glue with her own money. And most schools aren't reimbursing the teachers back with the money. Some do, but a good majority doesn't, because they can't just afford to give money back. Hence why they cut art. My second claim is that I'm going to be talking about is how my opponent said programs decrease, the art and music programs decrease interest of students wanting to learn reading, math, and other subjects. While I was going to go do some research on his two people he focused on, Rod Page and Mick Huckabee, the credibility of these two people was not there, because the two men were not cited as being doctors or other forms of high authority, but only just civilians, people just there. And a person listening to the claim cannot accept the argument of only affecting arts and music due to the fact that the authority of Page and Huckabee cannot be validated. And secondly, the source that was used cannot be searched due to the fact that it does not exist. The reliability of www.childrenworkshop.com just is not there. So how can you state any facts from Page and Huckabee if there's nothing there to be said from them? And there's another one that was also said, Children's Music Workshop, which is similar to the other one, is in existence, but I could not find Page or Huckabee in any of those articles or anything that they had inside, which leads me to question the integrity of the point that's being made on budget cuts about music and art. Thirdly, the budget cuts not only affect the programs of art and music, but also reduce the quality of learning. Because my first point is that overpopulated classrooms have just become too big now, and it's just getting overwhelming. As the funding has been lowered, classes have had to be lessened, because the schools could not afford to pay professors for classes, which led to overpopulation of classes. Megan Alfano of the Daily Titan, a newspaper produced at Cal State Fullerton, states, the classrooms are overpopulated, which was said by a student named Amaryllis Embry, a junior sociology major at CSUF. He also says, I have a huge gap in between classes because you just take what is available, and it has impacted my work schedule. So you see that they can't just work and can't do anything because of the way the budgets have been cut. In Megan Alfonso's writing in the Daily Titan, she quotes Vice President of Finance and Management Woolley Hagan. CSUF's budget has been reduced by $33.7 million, which is 11.1%, for the 2009-2010 school year, which was set at August 27th at the Academic Senate meeting. Secondly, on my third claim, a statistic on how much the budget is being cut just in New York schools alone. Jennifer Medina, a staff writer at New York Times, quotes Mr. Klein, who is the chancellor for the New York City schools, says, "Schools are also likely to curtail the teacher training program." He said he is expected to trim $20 million from the central administration budget, though he could not identify where the cuts would be made. So, which he's just letting the teachers do whatever they want, which is arts and music. Teachers are also being laid off due to the budget cuts, which is my third point, under my third claim. And Mr. Klein says, caution that while there would be no system-wide teacher layoff, some schools might feel forced to lay off teaching assistants and school aides. So I'm saying that on my third claim that budget cuts are not only for art and music, that we have to also look at the broader aspect about the classrooms and other things that go along with it. And so I hope that you find that arts and music are not the only things that we got to worry about. Thank you.
I'm in post on that wall.
All right, well, you identified the subject, but not the specific claim that the advocate presented. It sounds like you are kind of repeating the advocate's original quote in the first section, and for the first minute or so it sounded like you were basically making the same argument. So I guess the idea is that you're trying to summarize what the point was, but it seemed to me less like you were summarizing what the issues were and more like you were just repeating the grounds that the advocate presented. When you get to the point on your counterclaim at the beginning, you're talking about the impact on teachers and when it comes to spending and all those kinds of, and I could not figure out how that's relevant to the issue that was brought up by the advocate. There may be a way that it fits in, but it's not very well explained, and I'm not sure how I'm supposed to assess it in contrast. On the second point, most of your argument seems to be about the inability to discover the evidence that the advocate used here. Now, I'm not sure that you want to accuse somebody of making crap up. That's a pretty serious charge. If the evidence from Page and Huckabee was unique, let's say they had a particular quote or point of view that was dramatic and important in the crux of the argument, then maybe going after it is an important thing. But if they're just giving general information about the nature of music and the cuts and that sort of thing, I don't know that you get much by pursuing that argument, and it actually makes it seem like the first thing everybody should do here is go and see if they can find the same information. And then it turns out that we're going to be judging you based on your Googling skills as opposed to your argument here. The third point, again, this sounds like it's largely about budget cuts, but unlike the speech that we heard earlier, it's not very specific about how we should be looking at these things. Ultimately, the argument seems to be that you're making is that everybody's getting cut. This is not a unique harm. Everybody's going to be suffering to some degree. So singling out one group as opposed to another doesn't make much sense. But I don't really get those claims. I got three secondary claims here that you present, and I'm not sure how any of them apply directly to the advocate's argument, and I'm having to make that inference, and you should be the one making the inference there, and that needs to be a lot clearer. All right, I thought the presentation was pretty solid, and that you did an okay job talking to us, and there's good variety in your voice and those kinds of things. All right, thank you.